Are you a business owner looking for real advice and input? You're in the right place. From concept to launch to growth, funding, and beyond. Welcome to Startup Hustle with your hosts. One once sold a business for $150 million. The other, the author of $1 Million Bedroom. Here are your hosts of Startup Hustle, Matt DeCoursey and Matt Watson.
And we're back. Another episode of Startup Hustle. Matt DeCoursey here with JGrill, who will be sitting in for Matt Watson today. Hello, Jason.
What's up, Matt? How are you today?
I'm doing great. You know, I do have to mention before we get started that the Startup Hustle podcast is brought to you by Fullscale.io, which is the business I own with the guy that's not here today.
He's out working.
Yeah, he's actually at the business doing stuff. But Jason, I'm really excited to have you in here. And we were talking before we hit record that we have an interesting dynamic today because
I host the Grill Nation show on 980 AM. It's a local radio station in Kansas City. It's been around for years. I do that, and then I put it on iTunes. But I don't promote it like you guys do. I don't have the listeners. But I like to have really cool people come in and talk to me about things they're doing to change Kansas City and the makeup of it. So more regional.
It sounds familiar.
Yes. Not as much entrepreneurs, more about current events and things like that.
Well, that's some of the stuff we're going to talk about today. And first off, thank you for everything you do for Kansas City. You mentioned that's a little more centric. So obviously, radio has a reach to a certain point and a built-in. I'm still trying to figure out how we're going to get the Startup Hustle channel on Sirius XM.
Oh, you will.
Maybe.
No doubt. When I walked in this building, I knew you would.
Well, we're going to try. But just trying to live up to the standards that the mass media folks like you have set.
Yeah. I play one on TV. So I do a lot of my own media stuff, but also have helped a lot of people reach out to the media throughout the years. So I'm not a journalist. I didn't go to journalism school, but I've managed to. A lot of people think I am. I have no idea how, but I have a one day a week radio show. So
it's funny because I actually asked that same question on my Facebook feed because I've written 3 books. I do this podcast, and my question was, am I a journalist? And I don't think I am. I'm just kind of like, much like your radio show, I really just enjoy sitting down and talking to people like you or whomever, and the reward for that is the knowledge, and it's fun, and it also means that it gives me like an hour almost every day that I don't have to go do real work.
So that's kind of how I look at it too. When I go to that studio at 9:80 a.m. for Grill Nation show, it's an escape from reality because everything I do pretty much now, and we'll get into my life, has been billable hours, recoverable hours, client-based services. And so that's a grind. One of these days, hopefully, I'll connect with someone like you and talk to you about another big idea, so I don't have to work as hard. But yeah,
I'm trying to do some of the cool stuff that you've done. Well, maybe not all of it, but before we get too far into this, let's kind of go down. Let's go down your rap sheet a little bit.
Okay. Sounds good.
And well, let's play true or false. Were you once the youngest official elected somewhere somehow?
I was. State of Missouri House of Representatives down in Jefferson City. That's not in D.C. Everyone gets that confused. It's your state politics. I was when I got elected to the Missouri House in 2006, I think it was. And then Jason Kander got elected the next term, and he became obviously a big deal and was younger than me. So I lasted about 2 years as one of the youngest. I think the youngest.
You only have to be number one for like 10 seconds to say you've been number one. So,
right.
And you were 27?
I think so, yeah. When I first ran, I was 25, right out of law school. So I was pretty young. And I think the median age, or the youngest you can be an elected official in the Missouri House of Representatives is 24 by statute. So.
Yeah, I did not have my shit together when I was 27. I was getting there.
You were building businesses, man.
Well, not yet at that point. At that point, I was still working for other people. At 27, I had just become a regional manager for a musical instrument retail chain.
Really?
Yeah, and it was interesting because I was what they called a zone manager. So I was in charge of 1/3 of 17 different stores in the Carolinas. And this is funny. Of all the people that technically, quote, worked for me, I was the youngest.
Look at that.
So that was an interesting learning experience because I had to learn to be very practical, humble, and find ways. You're sitting there talking to someone that's 48 that theoretically didn't get the job that you just got.
Mm-hmm. How old were you then?
27.
27.
27, okay. 20. I did like 27, 28-ish. I was in that ballpark. So yeah, and that was really, in my opinion, where my professional career started. So I went a few more years past that before I actually went out on my own. But
that's where stuff really becomes real, right?
Yeah.
When you're telling a 48-year-old that.
Yeah, but I can only imagine at 27 when you're an elected official or running for office, and that's tough stuff, man. Because like, here's the thing: you got a built-in audience with that they're not gonna like so much of what you say, regardless.
Yeah, right.
Makes you probably develop some thick skin.
It does. But I also think people like young energy in campaigns, and so I think that helped. We worked tirelessly, and you saw it on our latest mayor's race. Quentin Lucas really worked his tail off.
Yeah, he's been in on the show.
Yeah, and I think that really having a lot of energy in a campaign really helps, even if you are younger than your opponent. So
yeah, we were a big supporter of what Quentin does, and he's pretty young too. He's
35. He's turning 35, or he just did.
Yeah, I got an invitation to his birthday party, and I was like, dude, you're only 35. I'm feeling old. I'm 44 now.
Okay. I just turned 40 last week.
It's wild because there's a lot of misperceptions about entrepreneurship, and especially when it comes to startup founders, because people watch TV and they see in movies.
They see the reality, the setup, the produced shows.
You're 22 or you're 18 or whatever.
Yeah.
The actual, the data around being successful as a startup founder puts you in your early 40s. Which, because it's...
I saw an article about that the other day that if you're after 40... those are some of the most successful entrepreneurs.
Yeah, well, I always learned that there's 3 stages of growth. You have your learning years, your earning years, and your yearning years. And so, but that middle stage where you're, 35 to 50-ish.
We're in that stage together.
That's earning.
Okay, good. Because politics wasn't earning for me, so.
Well, yeah, but it could be after. I mean, you look at and let's talk about that a little bit. You actually, I used to live in D.C.
Did you really?
Yeah, that was where I went after when I was in my early 30s. I went there and.
What a great fun place to be when you're young.
Yeah, well, it was okay, but that was in 2007, 2008 when now what they call the housing bubble came by. So I had gone up there and I had opened a chain of Yamaha piano stores for a couple that owned it. Now I didn't own the business, but I was partnered in it, and the first year was off the charts, and then that housing crisis really hit, and people quit buying stuff. And as you know, economically, when people, luxury items, you don't need a grand piano. You want one.
Sure.
And so that first year, people were cashing all these equity checks, and they're coming in. They're like, I've always wanted this. And
huge.
Buying. And then that second year, it evaporated. And man, it really hit me hard. I ended up going and working for another company after that. And 2 years later, started my own stuff.
So let me play off that real quick because I have a story about that recession
but
as
you
well.
were in D.C. for what reason?
I was an intern in the Clinton administration, the last year of his term in the White House. So I actually did the whole White House thing, and that was before 9/11. So there wasn't as much security. It was really neat. I worked in Al Gore's office for economic development and empowerment, the vice president's office for a senior advisor at that point. So I was all excited about that summer. We did the DNC convention in L.A.
Were those the years
2000.
where Bill was under some scrutiny for his personal decisions?
He was past that. He had gone past the Monica Lewinsky issues, and but it was interesting because Al Gore was running for president at the time when I was interning for him. So my natural pathway in my mind was get do this internship really well.
We were in D.C. at the same time then.
Yeah, it was 2000.
Yeah,
and so. You're thinking, he's going to win this election. Then my girlfriend in college voted for Bush, and obviously I voted for Gore because I worked in the office. But now looking back, my whole life would have been changed had he had won that recount in Florida.
Sure.
And I probably would have stayed in D.C. I probably would have gone to night school or law school at George Washington or whatnot, and then just work there and live there. So it's funny how things can really change. And then I came back to Missouri, went to law school here, and then got elected to office. So.
No, I've got a lot of respect for your past, but your attendance at Mizzou, not on that list.
So I went to law school.
I mean, Rock Chalk Jayhawk.
So I went to SLU for undergrad in St. Louis, which is a great university, and then I went to Mizzou for law school. I did apply all over the country for law school. My dad helped me out if I went to Mizzou, so I came back, and frankly, I wanted to get out of St. Louis, but I studied abroad in Italy. I frankly wanted to go somewhere else, and but once I got to Mizzou, it was a great time, man. I treated it like college / law school. It was so fun. I had never had a football team. I had never had that big college lifestyle at SLU. And so it was really cool. And I really enjoyed that time. And I went into Mizzou thinking, I'm not totally excited about this. And I left like the hugest ambassador for everything because I grew up a fan of Mizzou. But it was just a great experience. I mean, totally the whole package as far as, a good law school and a really good environment and atmosphere.
So we always define our acronyms for those that aren't regional. SLU, St. Louis University.
St. Louis University, yeah. Yes. That's a Jesuit university in downtown St. Louis.
So
during that, I did work at CNN too as an intern. I want to throw that in there because media, politics, policy has always been a passion of mine, and that was a fun experience too. I worked for a reporter there as an intern, and that was in the days when John King was a White House correspondent. You had Wolf Blitzer just starting his show. It was kind of a fun experience to work. Tucker Carlson at the time was on CNN at Crossfire. It was a really cool experience to kind of, and that's kind of where I got hooked on media, politics. Just loved it.
Let's talk about the economic development stuff
Okay.
that you learned in the White House. And once again, people, this is why we do this show, to get different input from different people. You have a background as an entrepreneur, obviously some of that, but I mean, for the first time on the show, let's get some insight on what it was like to be involved in economic development at the White House.
So they had a empowerment zone and enterprise zone initiative back then, which is really investing in areas that were underinvested in, even back then with different incentives and policies. And so that was really cool to see how that all functioned and how they worked on that. I mean, just seeing neighborhoods develop that had never been developed before back in 2000 was a huge deal. Now we're still dealing with that today, as you can see locally too. There's a lot of neighborhoods that maybe have been neglected, and hopefully that continues to grow. But there's all kinds of programs out there, government programs, that a lot of people don't know about that can help with these types of things.
I think there's been a big push towards the redevelopment of we'll say just downtrodden areas. Being from Kansas City, the downtown Kansas City, Missouri. I mean, wow. Mm-hmm. I grew up here, and we didn't go downtown.
No.
And it's gone through a metamorphosis, and it takes time and effort and attention and patience to see that happen. But I'm really seeing what's happening there, and I think it's really done an amazing thing for
When
Kansas
I worked
City.
at a law firm as a summer associate or an intern in college, we were 21, I think, and there was maybe 2 bars downtown that we could go to after work, me and my friends.
Yeah.
Fred Piazza and Italian Gardens was down there. I mean, it was a goal. It was just, I remind people to look at the picture from 1997 when it's boarded up buildings, haunted houses, when they're mad about P&L or they're mad about things developing because they don't like that restaurant or whatnot, if there were different incentives. Go back and look at that picture. Somebody had to take the risk on that, and they did.
And with that improvement came businesses, came tax revenue, came jobs, and it's
your
cool.
hot zone. It's your
cool,
hot
but
zone.
It's cool again.
Yeah, it is. I lived downtown Math for about 3 years, and when One Light was built, I was second resident after Blake Miller was the first resident. What a great experience. I realized then how many things actually are happening. One day you're walking through kids and families down at Municipal Auditorium for a huge gymnastics competition. The next day there's a country concert. The next day there's a rap concert. I mean, it's just, Costantino's is a gold mine. It's always crowded. I mean, all these people, different people, conventions in town, and people living downtown, all the dogs now. I mean, it's just a different vibe than it was, and it was a fun experience, I'll tell you that.
And that's the kind of culture input and, whatever you want to call it, that businesses, especially startup level businesses, are able to leverage into, like, saying, hey, not only do we have a cool place to work, but you walk out the door after work and, like you said, go do this, go do that. There's something, there's energy, there's action, something going on with that. So okay, so from the White House to CNN to all these other things, you later got into some things related to being an entrepreneur.
So when I was in the state legislature in Missouri, you're in a suit and tie. But I still, frankly, I have to wear a suit and tie a lot still. And not today. I don't have one on, thankfully.
I went 3.5 years without owning a suit, and I changed that last fall. Isn't that crazy?
You got one now.
I had to. Someone died.
Okay.
Yeah.
You should have at least one nice tailored suit.
I bought 2 of them.
Okay, good.
Just cause.
You get a blue one and a black one?
I had to wear it again last weekend at a wedding. Yeah, I got a blue one and a gray one.
Good for you.
But yeah, 3.5 years, man. That's crazy. But,
yeah. So anyway, so I had to be in a tie every day, and at the time, everyone was wearing black socks. Pocket squares had just kind of taken off a little bit, and so I always thought, let's start a company that has colorful socks, and no one's doing it. Then 4 or 5 years later, when we started doing it, I met some people. I met a guy in a bar, and I told him this idea. He had a VC company. He had a partner. Then there's another guy involved. So we had 4 people, 3 entities. Another company had just launched colorful socks that day. At the time, you could only get them at like JGrill at Banana Republic. There was nowhere you could get them. And so we thought, could we do this on a $7 sock, straight to consumer? Because e-commerce had just started, Matt. I mean, you just had Warby Parker start. Mm-hmm. You just kind of had this feeling. And so we presented at 1 million cups. This was like the first year, second year of it, in front of 200 people during Global Entrepreneurship Week. Our idea to have a colorful sock for $7, straight to consumer, and then a Sock of the Month club. That evolved into a ton of custom socks. So we did custom socks for almost hundreds of Fortune 500 companies, names you've heard of, through trade associations and whatnot. And I exited that business in 2018. During that time, we were on a TV show called Project Runway Fashion Startup, which was a spinoff of Project Runway. We've got investors from Rebecca Minkoff, other national fashion people. And today the company is still going strong. We did some rebranding of our e-commerce site to School of Sock, but the Sock 101 brand is still alive and well. So the whole premise was just, you got to wear a suit every day. Why not mix it up? Now that it's become mainstream, but back then it was gold toes. It was black. It was blue. It was gray. And I worked with 3 or 4 really good people. One of them bought the other 3 guys out, and continues strong today. I keep following them on social media, and they're all over the United States making socks for a lot of people. But custom socks really was the growth, and as well as the Royals, or not the Royals, but the Kansas City teams doing really well in sports obviously propels the colorful socks in those areas. So
I just received a pair of socks for my birthday that have my kids on them.
There you go. See, that's becoming
that
mainstream.
Custom sock, and I like that because some of the stuff you're talking about, 20 years ago, I would have had to order like 1,000 pairs.
Or you'd have to go to the department store that didn't have them, and if they did have a colorful striped sock, it cost you $15 to $20 for a knit sock. I'm talking dress socks. We also started doing other kinds of socks, but knit socks, I think we were first with the custom knit socks, and for marketing purposes for big companies, they love this stuff. And we made socks for Facebook, Google, Land Rover, a lot of universities, Capital One. I mean, that's still continuing, and that was what really grew the business. Essentially, after the e-commerce is an up and down thing, as you know, and then there's hundreds of companies doing it, so it changes. But that company was great. It was a great learning experience. Working with 4 people, I think we grew it to 9 or 10 employees, and they're still growing. I go to their website; they got 12, 13 maybe now, and millions in revenue. So good for them.
Let's talk about 1 million cups for a second, because this is something that started here. Here in Kansas City. It's all over the place now. Now, if you're not, whether you're in Kansas City or you're somewhere else, Google 1 million cups, like literally 1 million cups, and then put your city name after it and see if it's going on where you're at. 1 million cups is really cool. So I was just a panelist a week or 2 ago, just to give the.
I haven't been in years. What's it like now?
There was a good amount of people. There was a massive rainstorm that morning, and I think that may have affected attendance. So there's still probably like 80 people there. But 1 million cups is basically an organization that helps entrepreneurs pitch, and it's good exposure. They bring in guys like you, guys like me, whomever, as panelists to give feedback. Mm-hmm. They let the audience ask questions. But really, what it is it's a good opportunity for early stage businesses to start getting the word out. Mm-hmm. And that's so important. So what was your experience as a presenter?
So back then they were in a small little room in Kaufman when it started.
Yeah, this was in like an auditorium.
Yeah, so they've grown, but we did it was very early for that growing process. So there was 200 people in the room, which at the time was huge for 1 million cups. It was interesting. There was no panel back then. It was just me and actually two of me and another guy, Lee Bales is his name. We were presented, and the 2 of the other co-founders kind of watched. But it was interesting because inevitably people were like, "Why don't you have women's socks yet?" We had 5 pairs of socks. We had to source all this and get all this stuff.
But that's the point of it.
Socks are the hardest thing.
That's the point of 1 million cups, though, is to get some actual critical feedback. Like the whole premise of it is like, tell us what we're doing wrong.
Right, but we were just kind of testing the concept at the time.
But why didn't you have women's socks?
Funding. I mean, you got to start with the basics. So the whole purpose was men's socks. We eventually evolved into women's and kids socks, but the questions were like that, and so sometimes I think they pushed our ball too far down the court for us or down the field. But it was a great experience. We learned a lot. We got validated. We just started selling socks right after that, and Dad Sock the Month Club started. It was cool. But
I think one of the things about something like 1 Million Cups that's important is, all right, so look, with entrepreneurship is a fucking battlefield. It is nasty. It is humbling. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I have accessed and gone through every possible emotion over the last 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean it in like a way that is good and bad. And part of like, when I say humility and humbling and whatever, like if you're going to go out and raise money or do different things, like it is literally like trying to climb a wall that's a 90-degree angle with no steps, rungs, or anything like that. And they're like, figure out how to get up here. And one person out of 100 is going to figure out how to do it. Mm-hmm. And you have to deal with a lot of stuff. And you're going to have to hear a lot of things that you don't want to hear. Sometimes feedback is relevant and sometimes it's not. But 1 Million Cups is a great place to start learning how to handle it. And the objections. And then sometimes people just tell you what you want to hear. And that can be a massive, massive favor.
Yeah, and you're only up there for what, 6-10 minutes when I did it.
So I think it was 7.
7. Yeah, so you got to be very succinct with your pitch, and it's a good learning lesson. I enjoyed it. And Kaufman Foundation, through my consulting firm, I've worked with them on a lot of different things throughout the years, and a great organization here in Kansas City, such a gem, and they've really kind of worked on more of a national level, an international level, and they're doing a ton of local things now, like 1 Million Cups throughout the country.
So, I've traveled all over the world, and I tell people I'm from Kansas City, and I was in Belarus last year, and I told someone I was from Kansas City, and they're like, oh, like cowboys? I was like, no. But it's amazing how much cool stuff goes here, because, Kaufman Foundation, that's another thing for entrepreneurs and startups. Like, get involved with it.
Yeah.
They'll help match you up with mentors and good ones.
Mm-hmm. They do.
Like good quality people, and it's always, I'm just so proud of Kansas City when it comes to the entrepreneurship and the things like 1 Million Cups started here. Kaufman Foundation, Watson, I haven't verified this, but everything Matt says is true.
Yeah,
he's accurate.
So people tell me.
But Kaufman's huge.
It's the largest I think there is.
Yeah. So Mr. K or Kaufman was the dude that owned the Kansas City Royals at one point, and also a huge pharmaceutical company.
Yes.
And he put a lot of money into that, into having that involved. And people like Barnett Hellsberg and some other people are like, there's satellite things that go. I think it's funny with Hellsberg, they have hemp. The Hellsberg Entrepreneurial Mentoring Program.
Yeah.
Which
Did you do that?
Yeah, I didn't. Well, I have no. I have been involved with them. I went down. Both Matt and I last year went down and for 2 days and helped them work on some programs. Mm-hmm. One it was created by Laryl Holt. I don't know if you know Laryl. He was the founder of CarStar. Mm-hmm. So he asked us to come down and give some opinions from tech and SaaS company standpoints, and we did, and it was a great program. And a lot of friends that have done that. We were like early adopters. We were on the panel, and he told us, he was like, I was like, Laryl, do you want me to be like Simon Cowell or Randy Jackson? And he's like, he goes, and Laryl is like the most practical. He's like, I need to hear the truth. Mm-hmm. So that's what we told him. In the end, and it was good, and they took some of that. I mean, like I said, feedback is only what you make of it.
Right.
I mean, you don't have to take it, but if credible people that have a well-stated opinion are giving you some of that,
you can't do everything though with a business, right? When you're starting, you have to really kind of focus. And I think sometimes when there's so many different things you could do, especially with a sock company,
I don't have a problem with you not having women's socks. But get good at one thing before you try to be good at 7 different.
Women's socks are not. Like, women don't wear socks as often, like knit
it's not
socks.
as precise as
boot
that's why
socks,
I said you focus on one thing and get good at it.
But it's hard because in my real life that pays the bills now, there's so many different things happening, whether it's a crisis communication situation, whether it's a PR press release. I did one of those yesterday. Whether it's being at City Hall to talk about policy, whether it's helping someone write messaging for a launch.
Well,
I do all these things.
Let's talk about that for a second before we get into some of the other stuff. So you right now you work in a consulting firm. I mean, that's you. And by the way, go check Jason out at JGrill on about any of the social medias.
Yeah, JasonGrill.com and JasonGrill on Twitter. I will start out. I just want to phrase this real quick. This will be quick. So when I started JGrill Media, I didn't want to be a full-time attorney. When you were talking about 07, 08 in D.C., I was working in a real estate law firm. At the same time, I was being in politics. It was a part-time job in Jeff City, so you had to do two things to make a living. That's when the recession started, so nothing was getting developed locally. There was no big municipal projects. And so I knew I'd worked at various law firms. I went to law school more for the political and economics and learning lessons about politics. It was great to have that background, but I knew I didn't want to be a full-time lawyer. So I kind of worked at different law firms while I did the political thing. When I got out of the political thing, I said, I want to do my own media stuff. So I started a radio show. I started contributing a lot to national publications. I started doing a ton of TV stuff on Fox 4 and KCPT around political or current events, panelist type thing, election type thing. That wasn't paying the bills. So while that was happening, I had a bunch of startups like, how'd you get into this national publication? How'd you do this? Who do you know at the Business Journal? So then I started getting a bunch of little retainers to help pay the bills because I wasn't really practicing law anymore. I was getting cases, but I was usually referring those or working on them very sparingly with other lawyers. But that kind of started paying the bills. Then I got a contract with Kauffman Foundation to help them with a lot of policy on the state and local level and connecting entrepreneurs to policymakers. Because when I was in politics, no one talked to me about entrepreneurship. No one told me, here's some things they can do that could help small entrepreneurs and growing young companies. And so that really kind of spearheaded my company. I never wanted to hire a bunch of people. It was just my own work. And so that's kind of where maybe I failed as an entrepreneur. But what I did was I'd partner with other companies. I'd do their PR and they'd have the back end for marketing or this or that. Along that journey, I met Rashan Paris. So I work with Paris Communications now as well as a senior advisor on policy, media, and different media relations and public affairs type stuff. So I get to work on a lot of different fun things. But again, it's client-based, right? It's consulting. What started with the company to do my own media really kind of grew into more of a client service business because you have to pay the bills. This stuff didn't exist back then. There was no people making hundreds of thousands of dollars like you, Matt, on a podcast, right? So
if you think I make money directly from the podcast, you're wrong, sir.
You're doing it because you love the content. That's what I do it for. But my point is you evolve, right? You have a life. You have to pay for your bills. You have to grow. So I kind of have been able to mesh kind of doing my own media with at the same time helping others with their public affairs needs, their PR needs, their messaging needs, their crisis comms needs. And I've done that through partnerships with really great people in Kansas City that have built successful businesses and great clients. So that's kind of what I do in a nutshell. Finding solutions to problems for people, essentially.
And I want to hit on that for a second because when I was younger, I didn't want to hire consultants because I was like, I'll figure it out or whatever.
Yeah.
And as I've gotten older and as I've become more experienced, as I like to say,
yeah,
I really have learned to hire guys like you because, sometimes you look at a consultant's fees, you're like, God, that's a lot. And then you sit back and you think, man, think about all of the wisdom that person could pass me in an hour. And that's why I don't know how much you charge. We don't have to get into that, but that's why some people have a high hourly rate for different stuff and just different things. Like if, what is the cost of trying to figure something out yourself and failing at it, or just finding someone that's already really good at it and having them help you figure out how to do it?
I would add to that too, you could hire someone in-house essentially, and
equally, probably more expensive.
Either that or they're inexperienced, right?
Yeah.
And so you want to spend, let's say you want to spend $50,000 a year on a PR person or a in-house public affairs or government relations person. Well, you could come to me and I could say, hey, I will do it at this much. You don't have to pay me any benefits. You don't have to pay me. I don't need an office. There's pluses and minuses to both, right?
Well, and much like at Full Scale, what we do is we help businesses scale up their software teams quickly. And we have people at our office in the Philippines. Here in Kansas City and pretty much everywhere, there's just a huge shortage of programmers. So if you need to get some stuff done quickly and you need to mobilize a team like boom. That's what we do. And with that, it's the same thing. If you need to scale it back down, you don't have to fire people and pay unemployment and a lot of different stuff like that. We give you a set monthly rate, make it very turnkey. And that's the same thing. Like, I mean, technically Full Scale is a tech services business, but we're also like a consulting company in that regard. And that's what, I spend time telling people. I'm like, sometimes you need someone for a couple months and then maybe not again. Or whatever, but that's also the same. While that's a benefit for you, that's also a challenge because you have to continually. You can only do so much. You have to keep, but you also have to keep finding new people,
right,
and new stuff. And if you guys want to hire Jason, he's all over the internet. You should Google Jason Grill.
Just go to JGrillMedia.com or JasonGrill.com or connect with me on Twitter at JasonGrill. And then if you ever want to listen to a not a cool podcast, I'm on the radio at 980 on Saturdays. Grill Nation show 4 to 5 on 980, and then I have an iTunes, but I don't promote it as much.
Do they publish the radio show on iTunes?
It is. I do that, and then it's also on their website. So Talk 980 AM. But we do a lot of fun things. But what's funny is you mentioned trying to refill that funnel, and it's hard because. There's only so much to go around. And I will say this, when I started my business and I started to get a lot of retainers, I had a couple people helping me, but you get to that point, Matt, where you're like, okay, I'm finally making some real money, right? I'm actually putting money away. I'm saving money because after a political life, you don't make any money, especially in Jeff City. And so you get to that point where you're like, should I invest? Should I hire someone that is really good, that it could be someone that could really help me grow this business? Or do I continue to do a 1099 and partner up with different businesses throughout Kansas City?
You can make an argument either way.
Yeah, and so I kind of decided to go the consulting route. Now I've seen more and more businesses since I've done my radio show that have grown exponentially through a lot of really great employees and senior level thinkers who really understand things. So for me, it was like I wanted to control my own time still as an entrepreneur, as someone who kind of built his own campaigns. I didn't really want to have to like retrain someone. So I made that decision. Now I don't know if I'd make a different decision. I was in my early 30s then. But in the future, that might be a decision I make if I want to continue to grow my own company or if I want to continue to work for. I mean, everything's open for me. Like I always just try to touch an opportunity and see what's out there. Someone could come to me tomorrow and say, I have this idea for this, and we could start a business. I always try to leave those options open.
Sure.
As long as you can pay your bills and you can live in a great city and have great friends, family, significant others, content. And you can go wherever you want. We're in the middle of the country. Just get on an airplane. You're 2 or 3 hours away. You can go to California in February if you need to. That's the way I look at it. It's all about relationships to me and building relationships, treating people with respect and working together. And I think as a community, Kansas City does that for the most part, especially the entrepreneurial community. I've noticed we try to support each other. There's not this cutthroat mentality here. There's
a lot of support, and at the same time, and I'm not,
I'm being too much of a cheerleader, Matt.
Well, no, it's not that. I think the key in any community is like you said, is that connectivity.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you have to necessarily, sometimes competition is a good thing.
I agree.
I mean, it'll push you further. It'll raise the bar. It builds awareness. It does a lot of stuff. But, so the most popular episode of Startup Hustle this year is about startup communities. And Adam Arredondo from the Startup Foundation.
Great guy. Went to high school with him.
Right. So he came in, but that was the topic, and it was about, we talked about a lot of different things, but some of that was just about finding one in your community. Like we talked about 1 million cups. We talked about all these different things. I have people in here all the time. They said, well, so what are you doing to continually build your brand awareness? Mm-hmm. And, that's something I consider myself to have some expertise in.
Yeah, you definitely do.
But at the same time, it's like so many people just don't. I'll be honest. I think a lot of people think that I love going to rooms full of people and talking to them all night. I really don't. Like I'm a highly driven person, which means I can do that, but I'd rather just on many levels be left alone to do what I'm doing.
Get stuff done.
But a lot of people, they don't, but you have to take time to do both.
Yeah, and that's the hardest thing when you start a company is you got to be everywhere. But then you got to
get spinning plates, like you got to wait. If one's wobbling, you got to run over and give that thing a whirl and do something else. But there's a real challenge when it comes to doing that.
And I will say this too. I did a lot of that when I started my companies. Started going to all the million cups, did all of this stuff, and then you reach a point where you have to just say no to things. and whatnot. So I've really taken interest in more civic-minded organizations. I'm going to be doing the KC Tomorrow program with the Civic Council. That's starting here soon. A really cool program for senior level people to try to give back to the community, whether it's through a nonprofit or a civic board, learn more about the issues really affecting Kansas City. But I love working on projects here. That's the greatest part of what I do, is I get to work with great people, great companies. I've done a lot of development projects. I've worked on a lot of consulting stuff with public affairs and policy, and work with an association now that represents all the multifamily building in Kansas City, which is really cool because they have issues at every different city level, and just that gives me energy, man.
I feel the same way with what I do at Full Scale. Check us out, fullscale.io. But between that, so the podcast is actually owned by Full Scale.
Okay. And this is, by the way, one of the. I need to pick your brain about how you do all this stuff. This is cool. The signage.
We're looking up at the sign and just some of the different stuff.
Of course, you have a whiteboard in here. Yeah.
The whiteboard that has nothing to do with the podcast, but other things.
Oh, it does say podcast up there.
Well, that's because I was like, look, we got to do a better job of doing this and that. But, part of what's so fun, and like you said, okay, look, entrepreneurship and your brand or whatever you're doing, like it's tailor make it to what makes you happy. Now, I have entrepreneurial ADD, which means I have the ability or interest in maybe owning like an unlimited number of businesses. Mm-hmm. But as I've become more experienced, meaning older, I've really tried to narrow that down. But like at Full Scale, I get a chance to work with all kinds of businesses we have publicly traded companies that are clients. We have armies of one. Mm-hmm. And I love getting involved. And like you said, like really our goal is to help you be succksuccessful. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, we're successful with you. And that's rewarding. And it's also enabled me to get that entrepreneurial ADD feeling out of the way, while not having to be a part of too many different businesses. So some of the things that
that's interesting.
You were talking about this, like back to the sock thing, and well, why don't you make women's socks? Look, your total addressable market with socks is literally the entire world. Like you can't.
People will wear socks. That was what we always told ourselves.
Too broad. But the problem is like if you're not good at any of that, like you can't be good, especially in the beginning. You got to really. I tell people this all the time. Try to be good at one thing. Just get really good at one part of your business and then worry about the 5 other things that you think you need to be good at. Pick one.
Because you're inevitably going to get emails from customers and consumers saying, why don't you have socks that are for tall men and big men, like football player types, 14, 15, 16. We did that at one point, I think, but it's just, you can't do everything.
You can't do it all.
Most people will fit most normal socks.
Well, I mean, right. So I'm a size 13, and so I'm a sneakerhead. I told you that. I have 150 pairs of shoes.
So you have a big closet then?
I have 2 of them. and especially gold sneakers. Like that's kind of become my trademark. And if you check us out at Startup Hustle Podcast on Instagram, I do actually have quite a few pictures. I've painted myself in the corner with the gold shoes, because if I go places and I don't wear them and I see people, they're like, "What are we, chopped liver?" They're like, "What do you mean?" Like,
oh yeah, now you have a brand.
They'll be like, I told my wife that you'd be the person in the Full Scale suite with the gold shoes. Where are they? I'm like, dude.
I got to say, I appreciate you guys inviting me to events too.
Yeah, I saw you picked a couple. We're gonna have some fun coming up.
I love what you all are doing here. I wish I had the. I just want to be involved with you guys at some level, just helping you out. This is really cool. I felt special when you invited me, because normally I'm the guy that's interviewing people, and I've kind of not been interviewed in a long time. I'm presenting people to the media like, "Hey, here's your new business."
I had enough people tell me that we had to have Jason Grill on the podcast.
You have eggs too.
Yeah, the squeezy eggs.
I haven't squeezed it yet.
Those are there for people that want to pound on the table because they're antsy. But yeah, I had enough people tell me. They said you got to get Jason Grill on your podcast. And
I'm trying my best to give some sweet wisdom here.
Oh, dude, you're
good. For
a
40-year-old man who's still evolving and still wondering what he's going to be doing in 10 years.
You're still young. You have your whole life ahead of you.
We're about halfway through. Hopefully we live to 80, right?
You're in those. I'm hoping to live to be like 250.
Oh man.
Well, I think that by the time I'm old, I'll be able to download myself into a newly created me. We'll see, a younger, better one. And when I do that, I'm going to give myself more hair.
Well, that'll be fixed here soon. Somebody's going to figure that out at some point.
The hair part, because I'll deal with that.
You just take a pill.
Yeah.
The real pill.
I think you can do. Oh, and then it just grows.
Yeah.
Like the chia pet. You know what? While we're on the subject of chia pets, I tried to grow one. They're not quite as easy as they make it look in that 30-second
I had one in college too.
I had the Bob Ross one.
I had the Bill Clinton one.
My Bob Ross chia pet looked a lot like my own hair. Like it was really thick in some spots and just kind of there in others.
Yeah. I wonder if people still buy those things.
I did this last year. So yeah.
Okay, they do.
I got it in a gift.
I'd love to see what their profit, their revenue was.
It was a gift exchange thing.
Oh yeah.
Where everyone
Perfect
brings
gift.
a gift, you could steal it. I was like, I want that.
Perfect gift.
Well, thanks for the kind words about what we're doing. One of the things that you mentioned was, like the suites that we do. And that was an idea I had last year that came from my frustration with standard networking. Like, there are unlimited events. I'm going to a luncheon with the governor of Kansas today.
Are you really?
Yeah.
You might want to change before that.
No.
Okay.
No,
I'm just as a former Politico, as a guy who interacts with politicians a lot.
Because I'm not wearing a suit?
Yeah, I would throw it on for the governor.
I don't care.
Okay.
I don't.
Well,
I don't.
That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I get it.
That's my consulting advice. Maybe throw one on.
I won't do it. But here's the thing: is like I go as me to these things. I'm in the middle of my workday, and I'm actually paying money to go to this too.
Oh, I'm glad that you're doing something like that, though.
Yeah.
Seriously.
He's commenting because, by the way, I'm dressed up today. I'm actually wearing a collared shirt, but I have on jeans and some shiny gold sneakers.
So the governor gets the gold shoes.
No, the governor will remember me because of the gold shoes. Yeah. I'm actually going to this thing today, and this is just kind of like the state of things. I'm going on the invite of the Chamber of Commerce in Kansas. Great. They have been asking our opinion on how to build more businesses in Kansas.
That's flattering.
Yeah.
And are you helping them, hopefully?
Yeah. I did a lunch with them yesterday, and I've been down there a couple times, and I went to, like I said, going to this thing today. It's funny you say that because I do laugh. Like, I work in tech, dude. I'm wearing pants today, which is actually like any type of pants. It doesn't even matter, and they're clean.
Well, people I have
socks on.
People as successful as you and Matt can do whatever they want, I think, and people respect your opinions no matter what you look like. People like me have to wear a nice suit and tie once in a while.
Our COO told me the same thing. I was like, what's the dress on this? He's like, business casual. I'm like, so jeans, gold shoes, and a collared shirt. And he's like, no. I said, okay, well, that's what I'm wearing.
I got to tell you, one of the greatest inventions of my life has been the not that I did, but the men's golf pants that are like dress pants, not like the Lululemon type thing. Changed everything. Mizzen in Maine, they started that shirt that was a dress shirt that felt like it was an athletic shirt. That doesn't sweat as much. It doesn't feel like you're cotton all over. Those two things I wish I had thought of. I wish I had thought of comfortable dress clothes for men.
So my dad you talk about comfortable clothing. My dad was an attorney. And he was the guy that patented
a real attorney, full-timer.
The Sansa belt, which was like the original like stretchy waist.
Oh God, I have one of those.
Pants.
I have one. I have a belt on. These new belts that are like stretchy.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Oh, actually, I'm not wearing the stretchy belt. I have the ratchet belt.
Okay.
Which is,
I've seen those.
Oh my God, I'm never going back to like other belts. So I'm curious. You mentioned something. You said, "Oh, I would dress up for the governor." Now, you've been in politics. I'll tell you on the opposite end, I am not involved in politics at all. Like, my beliefs are very liberal. I don't even care. I don't pay attention to it. I find it to be very negative.
Well, you're thinking of D.C. politics, though.
All of it. It wears me out.
Yeah.
I don't like it. And then, honestly, like, I don't care if the governor doesn't like what I'm wearing. Is that bad?
No, I don't know. I'm more concerned about you walking into that room with, like, every single person there has a suit on, and you don't. You don't care.
I do it all the time.
As somebody who started a sock company, and
do it all the time. I do it all the time.
I want you to look good, man.
Yeah, but now once again,
you're a successful entrepreneur.
By the way, 10 years ago, that would have bothered me. I would have put on a suit. I would have done a bunch of different stuff.
So wearing a suit does not make you feel good.
No, I don't care, man. I'm just like the thing that I've just really it was probably 5 years ago when I quit caring. And I mean this I don't care what your perception of me is. If you're worried about like what I'm wearing, I behave myself well. I am polite. I'm not hateful. Like I'm a very.
I totally opened up a can of worms here, ladies and gentlemen.
But I think it's important. I think it's a good topic because you're right. you're right. I probably should wear a suit to go. I'm going to a country.
You got a colored shirt on, collared shirt.
Yeah. But my point is on some level, like,
and it is the summer too. That changes things.
But on
on
some level, at the same time, like, when I said I quit caring, I quit being overly concerned with what other people like thought and it set me free. And that's why you didn't open a can of worms other than like it being a good one. This is part of what's in my book, Balance Me. Like, you are who you are. And now look, sometimes that's not appropriate.
Yeah. I mean, you're not gonna walk into a wedding in a t-shirt. You mentioned you had a suit for a wedding.
I did wear that, and it's funny because I got to the frickin' wedding and everyone had on t-shirts. It was in a barn. And I was like sitting there.
Then you're the oddball.
I was talking to this dude from North Carolina, and he's wearing shorts and like a golf hat. And I was like, "Hey man, my name's Matt." And he's like, "What's up?" And I was like, "I need your number because next time I come to one of these things, you clearly have this figured out." And they were comfortable, but yeah,
Well, I appreciate your honesty, and I think that the most authentic you can be is the best place you should be. But if you don't want to wear a suit, don't wear a suit.
That's actually my point. Now, some of that. But would I have done that 10 years ago? Probably not. And then some of it, I'm like, you know what, whatever. I really do. I will have the shiniest gold shoes on.
There you go. That's your trademark, man.
My daughter on the way out today, she said, "Daddy, your shoes look like treasure."
Good for you. It makes sense, man. It makes sense. You having gold shoes makes so much sense to me.
Hey, it's funny. People ask me a lot why I have them. I tell them it's because sometimes you hang your head, and when you see your gold shoes shining back up at you, it reminds you what you need to start chasing. That's just an entrepreneur thing, And,
so, are you not going to hand me a pair of gold shoes to take home with me when I leave the studio today? Or
maybe someday?
Do you tell me where to shop at?
I give them away a lot. You have to earn them.
I'm a little smaller than a 13.
I've given Watson 2 pairs of gold shoes so far. One was for being in my book. He was in one of the interviews in $1 Million Bedroom, and then the other one I gave him when we started Full Scale.
Okay. Let me just really quickly say this. I did once almost buy a pair of gold shoes from Kenneth Cole. Not Kenneth Cole. Cole Haan. They had dress, the comfortable dress shoes.
I have gold dress shoes.
The gold comfortable dress shoes.
I have gold cowboy boots.
Okay.
Yeah, I got them all.
I think I got them in the mail. They actually arrived. I tried them on. They were so uncomfortable that I sent them back.
They got to be comfortable.
Yeah.
But yeah, most of them are sneakers.
But see, I had that dilemma where I was like, can I really wear these gold? They were like a lighter. They weren't as shiny as yours.
You got to be able to pull them off. I have all different kinds of gold. Okay. All different kinds of gold shoes.
I'll look back into that.
Do you know how many people that like literally said to me, they're like, "Dude, I couldn't wear those." I'm like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "I'm not brave enough."
Many. Thousands, probably.
Yeah, it makes a statement. But no, it was a thing. It was back to that brand. But like
it's
I said,
important,
it's about being memorable. I really do have gold dress shoes. I have 2 pairs. And then I have some gold snakeskin cowboy boots.
Maybe you could put those on for the governor of Missouri or something sometime when you're in Missouri.
I live in Kansas.
I know you do.
I do. I actually, and I'm gonna ask. Should I ask the governor why we haven't legalized weed yet? Would that be good? Show up. Hey, I just need to know.
Well, just ask her where that is on the pecking order. How about they legalize sports gambling first in Missouri? Kansas?
I told the city of Kansas City, Kansas yesterday. I was like, you guys need to start leaning on some people like this. Like, Missouri's running away from you guys. And, my dad's office was in downtown Kansas City, Kansas for 30 years on Minnesota Avenue.
Been there.
And the Brotherhood.
Interned at a law firm there.
Yeah. And, that whole thing, it's such a stark difference. Like, most people don't even know Kansas City, Kansas downtown exists. And then there's Casey Mo, where there's like huge buildings and a Sprint Center and all this other stuff.
But it's growing over there.
It's interesting. Okay, so back to as we kind of.
Jay, what's our time here, Matt? How much time we got left?
However much time we need.
Okay. I didn't see a clock in here. I didn't know.
There's a reason for that.
I'm used to the radio show.
There's
typical,
a reason for that.
Okay.
We kind of go as long as we go. Now, dude, speaking of time, I don't even think I have enough time to mention all of the awards that you've won. I mean, there's like a whole section on my notes here. Like, that's a lot of stuff. Now,
Thank you. I wish I could say I had made as much money as you had and been as successful as you had. I'll take an award once in a while.
And then, but another thing too is you talk about some of the publications that you've been in. What are a few of those? Because
Huffington Post. So I got into Huffington Post before they really had a big contributor network. It wasn't a full blog, and so a guy in D.C., a reporter, connected me to a guy who was one of the first contributors to HuffPo. So I got on there really early before they kind of opened up the floodgates for blogging and whatnot. So I wrote a lot about politics. I also wrote a lot about entrepreneurship. I once wrote a story about Kansas City trying to become America's most entrepreneurial city. And when you Google entrepreneurship in Kansas City, it was the first thing that popped up above the Kauffman Foundation, which I thought was amazing because everyone in Kansas City shared that article. That was very young into the Huffington Post, and Forbes and all these. When you got national exposure for your city or your brand, it was a big deal. And so, the Chamber shared it. Everyone was sharing it, and before you know it, it was rising up the ranks. That was an article I did. So I got into this entrepreneurship world, to be honest with you, just because I started talking about it more. Having entrepreneurs in my radio show helped too, but, sometimes you got to just do stuff and you become a thought leader in it. I have no idea how, but I wrote an article and then it took off, and then people from, same thing happened in politics. I started going on television in Kansas City to talk politics. Before I knew it, I was getting calls from Wall Street Journal Radio, from the Mitch Albom Show, from national people saying, hey, will you come on our radio show and talk about Mitt Romney's presidential campaign in 2012 and this state's primary? I'm like, sure. I said yes to everything. People are like, do you get paid for that? I'm like, no, you don't. Some of it you get paid for.
Well, people ask me that about the podcast. Like, even my dad was like, do you make any money doing that? But that's not the point of the podcast. Now, sure, on some levels, I do make money off the podcast because people listen to this.
Relationships.
They contact us and they say, hey, I've been listening to the podcast. I'd like what you guys are saying. I'd like to talk to you about it. Can you give me some advice on how to make our business grow? And sometimes my advice is not what benefits me. But it's always transparent. It's always honest. I pride myself.
I'm going to email you tomorrow and be like, hey, Matt, what do I do? Let's go have a coffee. I want to break this down in the next hour for the next 10 years.
I will tell you exactly what my opinion is in a non-self-serving way. And if there's something I can do to help, and if there's something my businesses can do to help, so be it. If not, I will give you my opinion, and boom. And that thing is, you
got to be authentic. I like that.
But here's the thing: is I do scorch a little earth along the way. It's never intentional. But some people
explain that to me.
Well, because people inherently are insecure, and we don't like to hear what we don't want to hear, and we become defensive when people don't. That's why I don't get into politics, because
it's too scorched earth, anyways.
Well, I spend enough time talking to people about just being honest with them. I'm not like, your idea sucks, but I might say, you know what, you're going to have a very difficult time with this for the following reasons. It doesn't mean don't do it, but you ask for the opinion. So sometimes, and I do have a lot of people that, so there was an article this week about this podcast in Startland Journal, and it actually,
I read that.
It mentioned something we're talking about. They had quoted me as saying, I've become someone that others ask for my opinion because they know I will give them an honest, unfiltered opinion. Mm-hmm. But with that, like I said, it's coming in hot and it scorches a little earth every now and then. And so,
you do it in a constructive way.
I'm not mean.
Yeah.
I'm really not. I'm actually encouraging, but I think that sometimes the best thing you can do for people is just tell them the truth. Mm-hmm. Like
you don't want to hold stuff in either.
No.
Because I've been in jobs where you've been thinking things for a long time, but you haven't had a chance to talk to the person, the client, the colleague, and sometimes when you just break bread and look at each other instead of getting on email or text or phone, really can have good conversations that take you to the next level in your business or with your career. And so I agree with you. You have to do that.
But that's the thing.
If we were doing this on the phone, it wouldn't be the same.
No, well,
looking at you face to face.
That's why we don't do these. We're actually going to revise that. I think we're going to start doing, because the great part about what we're doing here is I love shining the spotlight on Kansas City, my hometown. I was born. This is where I'm from, man.
Yeah, me too. I love it.
But with that, there's great stories everywhere. So we're trying to figure that out. But some of that comes back to quality. And there's a different dynamic when I'm looking at Jason right now. I could reach across the table and touch him, and I was throwing
all these $100 bills in my hand now.
The ones that came with the money gun that aren't real.
But you can look.
They look real, don't they?
They do. You can look at each other.
So
this is what the world used to be like.
Yeah, I know. I do spend some time going back to that and different stuff. But yeah, in that opinion, like, I don't have a problem with the scorched earth part of it. Like, maybe that's a little too harsh, but I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear and then watch you go broke you know, and also like I think opinions are, you know, like, you know, there's a lot of sayings about what opinions are like. You know, everyone has one. Just because their opinion doesn't tell you what you want to hear doesn't mean they're right either. I might be right, I might be wrong, I don't know. I'm just, you know, say, hey, this is for what it's worth.
This is what I've learned in my life.
And I'm sure as someone that went to law school, like, so I told you my dad was an attorney. My dad's like the king of the disclaimer. I'll be like, well, I haven't practiced law in 10 years. And I'm like, Dad, I ask you for opinion. I'm not going to sue you, Dad.
There's ethical rules around legal client, attorney-client. So and I have license in Missouri and Kansas too. I will say that. So if you ever need a lawyer or need someone, let me know. I can set you up with a good one.
So, but you know, some of the other stuff too, and we're going back to this, so like you have also been published in Forbes.
Yep.
And some other stuff. So, all right, Jason, I'm going to give you the mic for about a minute here, and we'll let you just freestyle and say whatever you want to say. But, you know, as we kind of close out this episode, I mean, what's some advice that you can give to anybody, anywhere, anytime about any of the stuff we've talked to? Like, it's a straight out freestyle. You go ahead and say whatever you want to say. Good, bad, ugly advice. Not you can read from Baby Loves Coding.
No, I have so much of that stuff. My biggest advice is just to my dad told me work harder than once told me work harder than your opponent or whatnot, and I still think no matter how that really remains true, you have to put in the time. You have to work hard. Nothing comes easy in life, and I think that's very important. I think, you know, building relationships and nurturing relationships in business is really important, because you never know when there might be an opportunity for yourself or that person. So continuing to treat people well and to build relationships is also really important. And you know, one of the things that entrepreneurs need to do more of is listen, I think, and learn. And that's one of the reasons why I host the Grill Nation shows, because I have to have you on my show now, Matt, by the way. But you're able to talk to people and learn from them and listening to them. And so I think sometimes as a young entrepreneur, you're kind of like, this is the right way. This is what we're going to do. But I think listening to people also is something that people don't do much of anymore. And especially to people who have been in the arena before, I think that's important. So I would say work harder than your opponent or your friend or your foe or whatever you want to call it. Build relationships and nurture them, and listen more. I think those three things are important as far as in general in life and in your business and growing your business. And you know, take risks sometimes, you know, and actually put yourself out there. If you get a job offer, let's say in a great city that's far away and you know, you're kind of nervous about it, you're loyal to Kansas City, you know, sometimes those things actually work to kind of give you a different perspective, and you can always come back. I just think be open to opportunities and try to do your best in everything you do, and work hard, and everything usually works out for you as long as you do your best and you treat people with respect and help them out when they need help, and say yes to things, right? And if you're not going to get paid for something, you could still say yes to. You never know what can happen. So that's a lot of different takeaways, but you only gave me a minute, so kind of crush them all together.
You could have more. You could have see that
we're not going to break
when
here.
You go from 4 to 5 and they're like, hey, you got to do. I have a hard time with that, by the way, on some things, because sometimes stuff just, you know, like, I mean, I guess if you had a daily radio show, and by the way, you know, so we came in and did this early because of the lunch. We normally do this around 10:30.
I noticed you moved it on me. I'm like,
we had to. That was why.
Am I the?
Well, I didn't want to cancel you either.
Yeah. Thank you.
Because the fun part is with this is, it's become a lot easier to get people to be on the show.
Has it?
But yeah, it has, because we have some street cred, and people, you know, it's not hard to get people to come in and talk about what they do and what they're passionate about. But you know, we try to bring top-notch people in. You know, like, I mean, Sandy.
I'm hoping I get 10 downloads on this podcast.
Like Sandy Kemper is
great.
Had 2 different $200 million investments in the last year in his company. I mean, do you think he's busy?
Yeah,
he doesn't have to take time to come talk to us,
right?
You know, and just you
got a great brand you're growing here, and I would love to have you come on my show. I'd love to help you guys out any way I can. I want to promote this. I want to. Maybe you can give me some tips, ways to get better.
I will do my affirmations on the way in. I will not cuss. I will not cuss.
We did not cuss on the show, or I didn't at least.
I did. It's yeah. I'm like a pirate. So anyway, if you guys want to check out what Jason does, go to jasongrill.com, learn more about what JGrill Media does. Jason is, like I said, didn't even have a chance to get into all this stuff.
I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, Jason Grill, just search for it.
If anything,
GrillNationShow.com.
just go so you can see this list of awards. I don't know. I would have to read too fast to get them on there. But Jason can help you with a lot of different stuff.
Public policy, media relations, public affairs, crisis comms, strategic communications, work with businesses, foundations, entrepreneurs, corporations, all those types of things. If you
SOC selection.
If you go to SOC 101, those guys are still killing it over there. And then listen to my radio show. It's on every week. It's only once a week, so I don't have to work as hard as my friend Matt does over here. But
I was going to say that we started at 9 a.m. I don't know how these guys get up at 4 a.m. and do the shows. I would not be a vibrant, interesting personality if I had to do it every day at 4.
So real quickly, I had on this week's show, I have a guy on who's a program director at 610 Sports. You said you had Bob Fesco on. Steven Spector's his name. And I asked him that question because he had to wake up for Bob's show at 4:30 every day. And, he'd go to bed around 9:30 to 10. But the hard part in sports is a lot of those games go late.
Yeah.
And if it's an NBA Finals
especially
or
if it's on the West Coast.
Football, I mean, you're going to have to stay up for that. So sometimes those folks get like a few hours of sleep.
You get the West Coast games like on the Sunday night football or just different stuff. I mean, they're done midnight, 1 a.m. Just different stuff.
You got to go in studio 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah, it's a funny story on the way out. I took Bob Fesco to a rodeo.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He like it?
Yeah, we had a great time. We learned it was one of the full-scale events. We did the startup roundup for professional bull riding 2 days in a row. We invited some early stage startups, but part of what we do with Full Scale Suite is we also like to get influencers and well-known people. I heard you were I was out of town. That's why I didn't see you at the Royals game, but I heard our buddy Joel Goldberg stop by.
He did. He's on my show this week too.
He's so good at that. I love Joel.
He is. I'm going to go to as many of those as you'll let me be at.
Yeah.
And I will bring new people into all of them that you will like, hopefully.
You make my job easy. We'll send out the announcement. We'll just block you out a little section in there.
I would love that.
We'll put a little plaque on your seats.
I would love that.
It's going to require a large political donation.
I've made too many of those throughout my life to people that maybe haven't won.
Dude, so many people have tried to buy tickets in our suite. I'm like, yeah, I don't want your money.
Really?
Yeah, they're trying to be polite. But I'm you don't need to do it.
I feel like a jerk now.
No. It's not so many, but I don't know. It's been enough to remember, but I don't want people. That's not why we invite you.
Yeah.
We trying to get good people together. You never know what's going to happen when you get a bunch of smart people together, and then the whole thing is like make it fun, make it interesting. I don't know. You have some events coming. I think you're coming to John Mayer with us.
I am.
I might bring my daughter. She's 4.5.
Yeah. Are we allowed? If I get to start going to a lot of these, I will bring a lot of business people. But we're allowed that one date or so, or person that is maybe.
Bring your wife. I don't care. You're
not married.
You're plus one's your plus one. It's.
I'll bring some amazing entrepreneurs that have been on my show or people I've met with.
Dude, that's why we do it. That's the whole point. And really, as we close out, find something to get involved with.
Yes.
Around wherever you are, around whoever you are. And my whole thing is I just try to put myself around people that are smarter than me all day. I want to be the dumbest guy in the room, and I don't mean that in any other way other than bring me up.
Yeah.
It's so much easier. What's harder, to climb the mountain yourself or let those on top pull you up? Anyway, that's how
I loved it, man. I love it. I'm the same way.
That's how I'm signing off. See you next time.